they wouldn't ever get a computer, they don't really have a cell phone. I mean, it's, my father was upset when they had to give up their rotary dial phone. So those kinds of things. And I often wonder, listening to them, when I'm 88, where I'm going to be. Am I going to be sitting in that house dark with, blinking 12s or something, and never be able to turn my TV on and watch my children? Because if it, in this technology tsunami that we've all experienced over the last few years, I think it's not slowing down. And I think that, we're going to have to work really hard to keep up, to be able to know what's going on, because otherwise we're going to be just like my mom, sitting there going, it's a dot-com world, and I'm not a dot-commer.
There were a couple of things about being retired. My husband's already, no, I'm sorry, Chris Larson Nelson, still living in Hartford. My husband retired from Farmington High School a few years ago, and he spent a year doing absolutely nothing but puttering. And then he took a course through Leadership Greater Hartford called the Third Age Initiative, which is a model being spread around the country. And what it does is it tools you for volunteerism. He's so busy now that there are times when we don't see each other just as much as when we were younger. But it's a breakthrough experience to begin that kind of giving back to your community. You can actually help your community in ways that they've forgotten they need to be helped. And that's one of the things that all of us are going to be on the edge of very quickly. And it's very rewarding. So think about that. Look into the things in your communities. It's wonderful. And about technology, I have two European students living with us right now. They have things on their computers where they can visually see the room in Italy and in Germany, and they talk to their parents every day. Every day. They communicate with their families visually, talking. That next step in technology will bring back the face-to-face, and that's going to be important too.
I'm Debbie Civic, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was one of the things I was thinking about when you're talking about families, that so many of us have been involved with our parents, and we are the parents now. And it was a big thing for me because we don't have any children. My parents became my children. It changed my life, actually, because I was one of those 60, 70-hour-a-week people, as was my husband. And, because we were both worked, we were ships passing the night for many years. And actually, my parents kind of brought me back down to earth because I had to rechange the way I was living and sort of include them in my life. That's one thing I want to say. So taking care of parents there are some good things to that too. I mean, it's a huge responsibility that I think many of us are involved in. But the other thing I want to point out is we should not do what our parents did, which is not plan not only the great stuff that you're talking about, have a really wonderful time in your life, think about what we can do, volunteer, give back. I mean, we have that option, but also plan for your future because we're all going to end up that way. We're all living longer. Either some of us are going to be, like Ron was saying, their parents are 92 and they're doing great. My stepdad is 90. He's not doing great. And many of us could end up like that. So plan for your future in that way so that you're not like a lot of our parents were, denying that that's going to probably happen. You need to know how to take care of yourself and make sure you've got healthcare directives and all that stuff arranged.
Hi, I'm Chris Dolat, and I'm going to change the subject a little bit. I think it was really good. I would like to make a plug for conservation. Many of us were involved in the first Earth Day in 1970. We had a card table out in Southington on the town square, and we gave out brochures, and people laughed at us. A lot of us tried to live a way to not have as big a footprint on the Earth. I think some days we were much less successful than others. Today, coming down here at 58 miles an hour, there was a little discussion in the car about who was going to drive what speed. At least we're not doing 70 anymore. I mean, that's marriage is compromise. picnic, but nobody showed up there, and we brought our egg salad and our rhubarb pie. And we came down from New Hampshire, I didn't say that, we have lived there for 38 years. But as we're coming across Mountain Road the second time, I saw one house that was hanging clothes outside. Now, I figured we have a dryer that was made in 1968. The only time it gets used is if the kids come home. I had 2 kids in diapers. I made it through them without a dryer. I figured I could make it through anything. But, you know, thinking about those kinds of things, people automatically use a dryer now. They automatically hit it at 70 on cruise control. There are a lot of things that we can do. You know, we have to trade off if we do get in an airplane. I know they now call it, you know, carbon trade-offs and all that. But I think there are things that we can do every day. Technology can help us to make some telephone calls rather than get in the car and go somewhere. I used 13 minutes last month on my cell phone. I get 450 free, but they don't carry them. But so I guess I'm asking is just to think about how we impact our Earth. Our population is growing no matter what we do. I come down here and there's so many more cars and there's so much more down here than there was 40 years ago. And that's creeping north. I may have to go further north, but I will. We lived in Canada during Vietnam, so I don't think I want to go quite that far. It's too cold. But think about it. That's all I'm asking.
Stan Lappin, for those who don't know me, I'm the one that gets detentions all the time. So, you know, it's interesting to me, I hear a lot of people are still here in West Hartford, the Hartford area. I live in San Francisco area, I've lived here for about 10 years. My parents are very much alive, very, very vibrant, thank God. Live here in Farmington, my sister lives in Massachusetts, and my kids live in the New York area. So if I didn't have technology, it'd be a real problem. Okay, so that's one thing. I think technology is really vital to connect a very distributed group of people around the world that we all seek to face. That's number one. Number two, to Chris's point, how do you get involved politically? Actually, when I grow up, I want to be like my parents. And I say that in a loving way because my parents have been involved for as long as I can remember in every political cause possible. To this, they actually were on the New York Times when Joe Lieberman was running for Senate, and because they were so involved, you know, in his campaign. Did they really like him that much? Well, it was like this, but they were involved. Okay, so I think involvement in that way, in any way that really is important to you, makes you young. And that's what's making my parents young. I think also being involved in taking courses and being involved in going to the theater and going to museums and doing whatever turns you on and really interacting with people is just remarkable. It is interesting to me to see people of my parents' generation that seem to be somewhat more recluse. They don't seem to have a group of people or friends. I think that makes them really old and probably die prematurely. My sister and my wife and I did a 60th wedding anniversary for my parents here in Hartford, of course. And we said to my parents, listen, why don't you invite some people? We're kind of cringing because we know they have a group of people. I said, look, we got a wedding coming up, let's not make this a pre-wedding wedding, you know? Well, there was like literally 100 people who came to this, and they had to cut down the list. And that's what makes my parents young. Anyway.